Alright, so I'm going to be using a tool called Mindomo. It is a mind map creation software, mindomo.com, and we will start by using this organigram type of map. Okay, you can see that there are a lot of different structures, and I recommend going with this organigram, and you'll see why very soon, because it has a format which looks like this. And before we go very far, I also want to explain why we use Mindomo for Dialogflow chatbots. Now, Mindomo has a few very good features, and in fact I have a very long article about this on my site. I'll leave a link below the video. The most important thing in my view is that it is the best tool when it comes to representing Dialogflow intents. And I think that there is another software called Xmind, which is actually a downloadable desktop software, which means that you only pay once. And the downside of Xmind, of course, is that you can't really share or collaborate with it, right? Because it's a desktop software. I think they have a web-based version which was introduced recently. I think that it doesn't really have a online sharing and collaboration, but more like you just use the web-based version to share desktop maps. I think that's how it works, but I've not checked that recently. The main thing I'll mention here is that the Mindomo tool is the best tool for people who are creating Dialogflow bots, and I'm not going to say anything about whether it's the best mind mapping software and things like that. I doubt it, but at the same time you'll see that it has a lot of features which make it very handy, specifically for the kind of stuff that we are trying to do when we are building Dialogflow bots. And if you want to learn more about why I am choosing Mindomo, as I said, I'll give a link, and you can go and read that article, and you can sort of see for yourself whether that makes sense. Alright, so what I'll do here is I'll first say this is the name of the chatbot. You can just put whatever you want here, and I'm going to delete these nodes from the map. Alright, so here's how we are going to start. First, the user is going to say something like hi or hello or something, and they trigger the welcome event. Okay, that's the point. And I did a shift and an enter so that I am staying within the same node but going to the next line, and then the bot will say, would you like to identify the vertebrate? Okay, this is the first thing that we had, if you remember, in the bot, right? And then I'll also have a representation of buttons which looks like this. So you just put it inside parentheses. And the thing I want you to notice is that this is how the conversation itself is flowing. So what we are doing here is we are trying to start by just typing out in our map, we just type out how we think the conversation should flow. Okay, and you will see soon how that actually can be translated into an agent with very little, I mean, it's not, I'm not just going to say it's very little work, but it's actually very intuitive way of doing it. Okay, so this is the first step, right? And the user is, let's say they say no. Remember that at that point the bot will just say, okay, I am here if you need me. And then it also allows them to start over by clicking on a button. Alright, so that's a very simple thing. And the other thing is that, notice that if I press the tab key, it already inserts this other node as a branch under this tree, and also it automatically formatted. When I say it, I mean Mindomo software, it automatically formatted it into a tree-like structure. Now you might be thinking, well, of course that's exactly what all mind mapping softwares do, and I agree with that. The thing is that this is why you need a mind mapping software for creating these kind of flowcharts, and this is why a tool like Visio, or there are like some flowchart, I mean there are just some diagramming software. One of them is called Lucid Chart. I think it's a very famous online, like it's a web-based alternative to Visio. But the issue with those is they are not mind mapping softwares, they are not mind mapping tools. So what they do is they expect you to go and arrange these nodes into a tree-like structure, which I don't need to tell you that that's a huge waste of your time, because like all you want to do is just quickly type into this flowchart software and keep like adding more information into it and keep moving fast, rather than spending your time trying to move all the nodes into the right place. And also remember, if you have a flowchart and a process where it's easy to translate this into a bot, you will make some updates in the future to the same flowchart. And what you don't want to do at that point is you don't want to be like putting all your effort into rearranging the nodes in your flowchart, in your diagramming tool, because as I said, like the more complex your bot gets, you know, the less it makes sense to use Visio. So let's just put it like that. All right, so here the user says yes, and the bot will now actually ask them a question. Does it have fur? I think that's the question that it starts with. So let's delete these nodes. And so this is what we start. You can go back and look at this thing. It says if it has furs, then so notice that as I do this, notice what is happening. It's actually looking a lot like just typing out the conversation as you might just visualize it, right? Like I'm not doing anything very complicated at the moment. So let's say the user says yes, the bot is just going to say it is a mammal, and it's going to allow them to start over. And now that I've given the start over option, it also makes sense to add that as a possible training phrase over here. That's what these separators really indicate, that there are multiple training phrases. Okay, that's a convention that I'm using. So if the user says yes, it's going to be a mammal, and if it's going to be the user says no, then the bot is going to actually ask them the next question: does it have feathers? And you have to prompt them with yes, no. I forgot to do that over here, so you have to add the prompts. By the way, these prompts mean that they will appear like buttons inside the Dialogflow Messenger chat widget. That's what we are trying to represent here. Okay, so if it's yes, then it ends the conversation, and if it's no, it moves on to the next step in the conversation. Okay, so you can already see that there's not much more to do here other than just repeat the same process till we finish the flowchart. And I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. You can just suppose that I'll complete this whole thing. And then once this chart is written out, we will come back to resume this in the next video.